this is the suitcase. Well, this is what I bought for my school so I can actually work during class. It's a pretty nice suitcase with good old plastic, you know, matte plastic on here, but metal edges. So if it does fall, it'll be fairly structural. And more metal on the corners, so extra metal if it does fall in a corner. I grabbed it poorly. As you can see, it uses sort of clip mechanism. Pretty simple design, but feels very nice to open and close. Mine isn't properly organized, if you can tell, you know. And during class we have to wear this. What is this? Well, it's to protect you, dummy. This is one of the knives we have to cut the protective seal on the wires. And here is our multimeter we're going to be fixing today. My multimeter is actually working just fine, but this is for anyone who might have broken theirs or just needs, you know, to know how to open it, for example. Now, this is a UT39C. As you can see, it's written up there. To be sure, I even have the manual right here, which says it is a UT39A or B or C. I have the C version. But I reckon it shouldn't be too different when you have to open it up. Now, in my suitcase at least, we have the spare fuses in this little cardboard box in a plastic bag. Open the plastic bag, get it out, and here's the fuse we're gonna need. All of this, yeah, we don't need that, so we can just close it back up, put it back in here, just close it. Now, to make sure this will work properly, you actually need another multimeter on hand, or borrow it from a friend, for example, or a co-worker. Now, if that's not possible, that's a shame, because then it's harder to check whether or not it's properly working and giving you actual measurements, not just some random jimble jamble. Now, I did actually forget to take something out of this suitcase. Obviously this, because we need to wear it, so we don't, contaminate any of the components with our normal greasy clothes or damage our greasy clothes. And what we need is to grab the smallest Phillips screwdriver available, which is this one. Thank you, phone, for not focusing. Now, first of all, you need to get rid of the battery. Well, not get rid of, just remove so it doesn't accidentally turn on. Because this button on here is very sensitive. Even with a little pressure, just setting it down on the table, screen first, yeah, that's enough to turn it on and potentially waste your battery. Luckily, this automatically turn off, but who knows? What if it doesn't automatically turn off? You could just waste more of your battery. One screw down, little pad lifts up, you slightly lift it up and pull it towards yourself, and boom. Gets off. It's all simple. Then we just carefully take out our battery and set it aside, because the battery still works in this thing. It's just the fuse that's causing you problems. Now, as you can see, I see one screw, right? But I don't see the rest. Even when I lift this clip up, only one screw. How do I access the two other screws? Pretty simple. You have to get rid of this skin, aka red case, that's on the multimeter. You have to be very careful not to be too rough, because you could damage something, because this isn't really held on 100%. So if you damage something, it'll definitely not be 100% afterwards, even if it was in the first place. Try to take it slowly. I'm trying to go quick so I don't waste too much time. There we go. Slowly got it out. And this is essentially what the case looks like. Pretty simple. This is what our multimeter now looks like. This is the true size of our multimeter. The only reason it's there is to hide these two screws down here so they don't get dirty or potentially damaged in some other way. Or you mistake them for like the battery cover somehow or something else. Now we start unscrewing the bottom right one. It doesn't matter which order you start. I'm just starting with the bottom right one. You gotta make sure you unscrewed it until you hear a couple of clicks. You know, when you hear like a little click. And then you can take it out, but just, oh, or not. Oh, never mind. It was out, but it was still holding on somehow, because how tight that area is. Now, you don't want to mistake the battery cover screw with this screw, because if you look up close, the threads are different where they are. See? The one for the battery is closer jammed back together, while the one for the actual like cover of the entire back is more separated. So if you mistake these two threads, you'll potentially damage the actual, you know, area that you put it in. Is it called threads? Probably not. Probably got that wrong, but you get the gist of it. It's different design screws like this, and you also want to make sure that when you do remove your screws, you know which ones you remove. So like, oh, this is the left one, I'll put it on the left side. It would be nice if you had some sort of organizing tray, like I should, but I forgot to grab mine. You don't want to pull it out with your fingers. Usually, your screwdriver has just a strong enough magnet to lift out the screw once it is fully out of its socket of sorts. Now you carefully have to lift up this base because if you're not careful, you could potentially damage some other clips that are also holding on. The top part is usually what's holding on to this very well. You gently, you know, pull it off and it works just fine. You know, it's easy, it's simple, it won't damage anything. Now, obviously, my fuse is perfectly fine. I can tell that because there's a teeny tiny wire inside of there. Can I focus? Okay, so a teeny tiny wire is in here. And if you can't see that wire, for example, or you can see it, but it's not connected with the other bit of the wire, that means your fuse is broken and you have to get rid of it. Another way to test if your fuse is working if you can't see the wire is by, once again, getting another multimeter and attaching the two leads to the end and the start part like this. Then checking if it beeps while you're on the first function, aka top middle. And now we're going to remove mine. If I remember how to. I think you use just a screwdriver. A simple screwdriver can do the trick. Or not. My apologies. Not a screwdriver, flip screwdriver. You have to use the smallest one, which in my case is one that tests if there's electrical current. Okay, this one. This isn't for actual unscrewing though. And this is not proper. There we go. A bit of prying. You have to be more gentle if you press it against the case, because right now, because I was pressing it against the case, slightly damaged the plastic case, despite both of it being plastic. Well, this being metal, of course. Now you pull it out, and mine still has a wire, so we're not going to be opening this up, but we can, just to show you how many how many there are in here. Oh Jesus, now it's surprisingly long. And there are a bunch in here. So yeah, there are a lot of them here. So if you do accidentally break your fuse, you'll luckily have a ton of backups, but don't break them on purpose because that is just stupid at that point. Huh. I don't see the wire on this one. Oh, there's another in here. Weird. I don't see the wire. Oh wait, there is a wire. Oh yeah. So I was right. On some of these, the wire is so thin that even I can't see it. Like this time I can, but it's, barely visible. That's why you need another multimeter to test out if it does work properly. Like all of these, they have a wire, but it's so unbelievably thin compared to the fuse I've got. Like the fuse I've got, because it's been used, the wire is no longer like in a mostly straight line, diagonal. It's like kind of trying to go all over the place because it's already been warm and caused it to warp. Don't worry, that doesn't mean it's broken or anything. That just means it's been working as intended. I messed it up. So excuse me. I don't want it vertical. Oh jeez. That should have happened. Yeah, don't hold it above your multimeter, exposed multimeter. It's unfortunate because this should be really easy to put back in, but for some reason I'm struggling a lot. Like it's supposed to go in landscape. For some reason it ends up as portrait. Seriously, first one already upside instead of landscape. Well, let's take care of putting it back in. Don't remove them all at once like I did, because then putting them back in will probably be a nightmare. At least it was for me. Now, it doesn't look like it matters which side you put on which, because there's no indication of there whatsoever on here. So, you just have to, gently hold it above, where you're supposed to put it, and just make sure you apply equal pressure on both sides, on the metal, not on the glass, or else it will just break, because glass is glass and glass breaks. So now that you got it back in, it made a click on both sides, click, click, if you heard. Now it's back in like normal. Now you have to carefully align this back cover. Make sure you don't break the spring, which, in my opinion, well, not in my opinion, I genuinely don't know what this spring is for, but I'd rather not find out by removing it. It is very loud when you clip it back on though, so make sure you clip it on all sides possible. Just like that. Don't want power. And now we need our screws. So, the way to screw in a screw is not by just immediately going right, but it's by going left until you hear a slight click. You hear that? That means you can screw it in, Because if we were just to start screwing in immediately without actually adjusting where it is, you could potentially create new threads. And new threads is a bad thing, because doing that enough, like if you did that enough times, you would just end up with a loose surface, like this, for example, on all sides, you know? Click. Also, when you're screwing back on, towards the end, you won't need a lot of force because you did it correctly. But if you can't do it like with 2 or 3 fingers, you know? Yeah, see, now I'm just completely locked off. Can't do it more. If I did it more, it wouldn't feel good. Like, it's easy all the way until there's like, suddenly it's just, you can't go anymore. If you did it wrong, it would just be hard all the way, and suddenly at the end it's like really easy, you know? That's when you did it wrong. Alright, now let's put this case back on. Technically it is a case. An unusual one, but it counts as a case anyway. Probably put the top first on, because the top is giving me more problems than the bottom. And yeah, it ain't the easiest thing putting it back on. Luckily, the red case of sorts is more stretchy than the actual multimeter, so that could help. Potentially, if it were to actually go on, which it does after a while. And I noticed the problem. I put it on backwards. That's why I was struggling so much. So don't do that mistake. These 4 dots on the outside are obviously supposed to be on the back. So I was putting it on wrong, which is my bad. You know, it shouldn't have been that hard, because doing it correctly, look at that. Almost immediately got it on. I just gotta clip it into place. You know? Because if you don't clip it into place, it'll just fall off eventually. Like, pretty quickly, too. Alright, now we got our case back on. As you can see, there is a tiny gap here and there, which as long as you did clip it into place, you know, click, 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 that should be okay. Just, if you see any gaps, try to put some pressure on where the clip should be to make sure it did clip in place, and that gap is just, you know, pointless and not really going to affect you in any way. Now, before we put it back on, make sure the power button is up and not down, because if it's going to be down, then you're just going to turn it on immediately after putting the battery back in, and that will not be a good thing. The reason why it won't be a good thing is because, you know, battery drainage, and you might accidentally do something you don't want to do, you know. It's really not that much of a problem, but you could cause an electric shock to yourself if you somehow, you know, end up with your screwdriver in the metal bits, which is a small chance, but you never know. Click. Battery is nice and well in, because there's no weird like click 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 when I press on it or tap on it. So now we do power, and it turns on just fine. Now we're going to take out our leads and check if there is a connection. Sadly, I don't have another multimeter to test this with, you know, to see if all the individual ones work properly, but we can at least see if we do get a connection between the two leads on itself. Conveniently, these have covers on the important bits which go into the machine, aka the multimeter. Another fact I didn't know about it, you see how little area you have on here? You can actually take this bit off. I learned that from classmate, and then you have more room. So if you have to go into somewhere very tight, like in here, see, you have a connection. Works. You can also remove it on this one. So A definitely works. Another way you can test if your multimeter works is like this. Pretty simple. Now we just remove it very easily. You don't really need a lot of manpower to do it. Power off. And there you go. Remember to put these holders back on, because it reduces how dirty the metal bits on here get, which is a good thing. And it also reduces how much it can get damaged, you know. If I were to push on this, it could break way more easily than if they had the plastic covers on. See? The entire thing bends, but the actual important bit, which is this metal bit, doesn't bend. Now you just gotta put all, let's count how many fuses, backup fuses you have in this case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So including the one in the multimeter, you have 11 fuses, aka 10 for backup and 1 already in use. So that's pretty convenient, you know? You never know what could happen to your fuses. Seriously? So, I'm gonna do a time lapse of me trying to put all these back in, and I'll thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I hope it helps you in some way when you're trying to repair your multimeter, fuse way, or just you need to know how to open it for any other reason. And thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please share it, comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.